If you ever found yourself wondering where the village is meant to be, especially while raising children far from home, you're not alone. Welcome back to the Damn Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Eva. Now, community is one of those words we hear all the time, and it sounds warm and supportive and assured. It used to mean a space where people gathered, physically, regularly, without need to explain anything about themselves. But for many of us, before motherhood, community didn't feel essential. We were busy living and working and building our lives, and often independently, and often proudly so. And then motherhood arrived, and suddenly we were told that there would be a village, that support would just appear, and that we'd be held. And for many international families living here in the Netherlands, that moment came with a quiet question of, where is it? Was there a language that we hadn't mastered yet, a form we forgot to sign, or a WhatsApp group we somehow missed? The truth is, I'm still figuring out this whole community and village thing myself. And that's a conversation we've returned to many times in the podcast. We've spoken to Gemma from Mama Social, who felt the sense of absence, and she went on to create something deeply tangible. Real-life events in real cities, bringing mothers together over warm coffee and good food. We've explored it with Dr. Naomi Gibson, who reminded us that a village doesn't look like the people we love, but it's the support that we outsource. Babysitters, cleaners, practical help that holds us steady. And maybe that's the point. The village today isn't exactly what anthropologists once defined. It's what a mother defines for herself. Which is why I wanted to bring today's guest on. Because when mothers create communities, they're usually responding to something missing, something unnamed, something quietly carried. Today we're talking about the Second Steep, a new community created specifically for Asian mothers living abroad, and the questions, tensions, and transitions that lived beneath that experience. This is a conversation about motherhood, identity, distance, and what happens when women finally have a place to land. I'm really glad you're here for it. So I would like to welcome Manshi, who has been one of the creators of The Second Steep. Hi, Manshi.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. I'm doing really well.
Thank you for joining us. So before we talk about The Second Steep,
can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what kind of questions or tensions have you been feeling in this motherhood era of your life?
So just a bit about myself. I moved here to the Netherlands 9 years ago for my Dutch husband. I've been very blessed, very honored to be able to live, to work, to immigrate into different countries, Hong Kong, Singapore, the US, the Middle East, and here in Europe for the past 9 years. In the life that I've lived, I moved a lot between very structured systems and also very fluid environments, from engineering, construction, organizations, and cultures, and now motherhood. I'm a mother of 2 young kids, and to your question, what tension has been quietly alive for me this season or in motherhood is this sense that doing everything perfect, doing everything right, being competent doesn't necessarily bring us that sense of purpose or a sense of belonging or identity as we hoped. And you have also alluded to that. So there's a lot of times we'll find ourselves, we're doing well, right? We're being the mother, we're being the professional, the entrepreneur, the immigrant, the expat, or whatever. We're doing well on the outside, and we seem to have it all and do it all, but we can, at the end of the day, feel a bit unsettled, unsure, unseen, unheard. And that's the tension that I know I've experienced for myself, and I see other mothers experiencing too.
So what was it that you started noticing among other Asian moms that made you realize something needed a place to land?
It's not like a Q&A. For me, it wasn't about parenting tips or where to bring my kids to school and things like that. It's about this very quiet, almost invisible sense of a load, of a fatigue, of like wanting to hold on to so much in so many directions: work, kids, family, friends, parents. But there's not really a space for mothers to be, to breathe, to feel uncertain, a place where uncertainty is even welcome, and talking about deep stuff is welcome. So like when you start to talk to moms and their stories come alive, they start to come alive, and that's beyond that sense of loss or anger or frustration that usually comes in from the day-to-day chaos.
Okay, I have a bit of a strange question here, and it's something that I've actually seen or read a while ago. And it was just talking about with so much internationalism and people traveling and living in different countries, obviously you'll be learning a different language. And specifically, there was someone from one of the Asian countries, and for some reason, I think it's Taiwan, forgive me if I'm wrong, and they were saying that because they learned English, they're now able to do therapy through English because it's something they would never have been able to do in their native language, either through culture or how they were brought up. But with the ability of saying it in English, they now have a language to be able to express themselves. Is this something that might also be an element for you or people you know, maybe?
Yeah, that's a really, really beautiful observation. And I think it is part language, but it's also part navigating and connecting to what feels true to you. So you don't have to put on a mask or pretend or having to put on a different personality. And I think being a mother is that perfect journey, storm, melting pot, kitchen sink, whatever you want to call it. It's that really interesting space, identity, where you're like, this is not translating. This is not bring over as well as I want, or I don't seem to have the words for it, or I don't even know who to talk to, and do I have to pay someone to talk to? Yeah, I think these are things that we're wanting to, at Second Steep, to hold space for, because there is no prescribed step-by-step framework to navigate that. And every mom navigates it differently. And I think the way was really beautiful. It came with this awareness like, hey, I could do therapy in English. So if I needed help or if I needed to release certain things, I know there's an outlet for me. There's a path for me. And I think that self-awareness is priceless in itself. And we're hoping to do that at the Second Steep also.
So what do you actually hear other Asian moms carrying quietly? As I said, like when it comes to language, if there's things that you don't have in your language or in your background or culture.
So one of the things we hear is when their spouse is an Asian. So how do you break through that void or that lack of, if I look at you, you know exactly what I mean, that kind of feeling. So that's something that we definitely have heard of. Another one is on terms of how can you pass on your Asian language to your kids living abroad. So I bring my kids to Chinese school so they learn Mandarin. I speak Cantonese, which is a Chinese dialect at home. And what is it about the language? Like they're not going to be fluent, but is it okay they just know how to say a couple words, or is it okay that they write it? And why is it so important for me to keep it alive for them? And that also brings up my motivation and how I relate to language in terms of passing on to the next generation, and why is it so important or precious to me. So there's definitely a really interesting space in terms of seeing it's not one way or the other way. It's like navigating. I think the word that keeps coming up for me is just, how do you navigate that? How do you make decisions? How do you find peace in yourself? And how do you coexist in society?
I think Mimi has spoken about that before, about the importance of your culture and your language, being able to express yourself in that language for your children so they understand you more through songs and books, that you're able to. I think Mimi's done great episodes with that, where she really showcases how language is paramount for your children to understand you as a parent as well. So it's great to hear. I'm so in awe of all these heritage schools that I hear about, where you can go and learn all your respective languages. I definitely don't have that in Irish in the Netherlands. So if anyone knows, let me know. But as you became a mother yourself, what choices became clearer about what to carry forward or what to lose from how you were raised?
So for me, part of my journey was to explore my relationship with Asian values. So Confucius is a big part of the values, is a big part of Asian culture, being respectful, being in harmony with people around you. We don't want to make a fuss. We don't want to make a scene. We don't want to pick a fight. And as I spent more of my life outside of Asia than inside of Asia, I started to see my worldview has shaped, and I started to see what is important to me as a person is what is fair and respectful. So this thing about speaking up, but if you speak up, you may upset people. For me, if it is the fair and respectful thing to do, that's what I want to teach my kids. And I learned to hold space for them to do that, but knowing that there's also a need or a beauty in keeping harmony. You don't want to disturb harmony too much, and to be too loud and to be obnoxious. But at the same time, if something is not right, something is not respectful, you need to speak up. And that's how I'm raising my kids.
Can I ask, does your family make any comments about your children? Like, oh, they're too loud or they're disrespectful? Or do they have some viewpoint from their aspect? Because I know I've had comments from my family, and we're Western Europeans as well. And they'll be like, oh, your daughter's, very Dutch. She likes to voice herself.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I haven't noticed comments like that, but I noticed that when I hold space for my kids to do that, the other adults will pick it up and hold space for them too. And it's kind of like a sort of role modeling in some sense, where if this is how the kid's going to be raised and you respect or agree with it, that you also allow the space for the kid to own their voice and own their confidence to speak up and own their moral grounds to speak up. So I think what I see more is in terms of role modeling it and as adults and building that village around the kid so that they could honor what is fair and respectful.
Tell us more about the Second Steep. I know you guys are pretty new, but can you tell us who founded it, why you created it, and what you guys actually do there?
Yes, so the Second Steep has been in existence since May of last year, 2025. And I met my co-founder, Joanna Lee. She's actually based in Vancouver, Canada. So I've never met her, but I met her in a global Asian women coaching group call. She had mentioned she wanted to do something for Asian moms. And for me, I just raised my hand. I was like, oh, me too. We didn't know what or how, but over time, we experimented with different ways of holding space. And what we've started to do more of is to hold more in-person events. And we do it in our own way. So Joanna, she's really great in holding spaces for prompts and reflections, with your notebook and pen in a very intimate setting over coffee. And I think I love food too much. So I'm just going to hold conversations over food. And that's how I did it. So we've been organizing dinners in Amsterdam and Eindhoven at this moment. So we're going to have another event for Chinese New Year in Eindhoven on the 28th of February. And we welcome Asian moms to come and just have a great time, relaxing time to talk. And our vision is to help mothers to navigate how they process their identity, cultures, responsibility, and really giving this collective voice more space and more, in a sense, a more legitimacy, because these experiences that we have as Asian moms are legitimate and it's very beautiful and very diverse. And we really wanted to bring that more into socially acceptable spaces.
And what tends to happen at these events that you're holding?
So we hold space for mothers to, first of all, pause and take a break, not run around like crazy. And we hold the space for them to just have a conversation about life, about their relationships with their families, their work, their kids, and just really witnessing each other and honoring each other and sharing. I think a big part of it is sharing our different experiences from different parts of the world and why it mattered to us, and really building bonds with women. We don't meet often, but I think every conversation we have, we touch each other's hearts, and we would like to welcome more moms who feel called to the space to come and join us, whether it's an in-person or an online event. We'll welcome you guys to come.
And is there anything that has surprised you in any of these events that you've been holding?
That every Asian mom that I've spoken to has a lot of courage and strength and resiliency in how they are navigating motherhood. across different cultures, because there's no stereotype, there's no more labels, and every mom is really living and embodying what they feel is important to them. And it's not necessarily what their cultures or their parents have raised them to. They kind of became more aware of the impact of their choices, or how, if they raise their kids a certain way, what that impact would be. So they're very much more conscientious about how they want to pass on values, pass on language, pass on culture to their kids, and very courageous in holding space for their kid to being their own person while holding those culture and those values inside of them.
Coming up, it's going to be the Year of the Horse, and that symbolizes a period of rapid movement, independence, and bold, forward-thinking energy. And I was checking, and it says something about for families living abroad, this year often represents a shift towards embracing new adventures, career leaps, and importantly, a desire to create a home that is flexible and connected regardless of the geographical distance. How does that sound for you?
That sounds beautiful, and we welcome it. So we're really excited to welcome the new year and being a safe space and a grounding space for mothers.
I have one more question, which is just about raising awareness of the diversity of living here in the Netherlands. I mean, they boast that there's over 180 nationalities living in the city of Amsterdam alone. How would you recommend we can introduce Chinese culture to our children? Because we know books are a great way of doing it, but is there any other things that you can think of that would suggest this is a great way to introduce Chinese culture for young children living here?
I just love food. And I grew up in a Cantonese family. So go have dim sum on a weekend. So it's brunch as essentially on a Saturday or Sunday, and just soak up all that noise and chatter and different types of food and flavors and smells. And I think that in itself is very Asian and very immersive. I also often bring my kids to the toko, like Amazing Oriental, for example, so that they get to see, yeah, we have different types of food, in refrigerated or canned or candy, vegetables. That's also something that I do. And I know some moms also love bringing their kids to their public libraries. So some public libraries also organize Taiwanese or Mandarin or Cantonese and other languages also. They have different events for kids, family events. So definitely check that out also.
So the Year of the Horse is inviting a connection to roots through the lens of adventure. So I think your food, your dim sum suggestion is quite poignant, because it's a time for sharing cultural traditions with local communities, which can feel empowering rather than isolating. So Manchi, can you let us know, where can people find you at The Second Steep?
Yes, we can be found at Instagram at The Second Steep.
Well, that's pretty simple. And your next event, as you said, is coming up on
Saturday, February the 28th in Eindhoven. And the one in Amsterdam just passed, but we will organize future events again. So keep posted.
Thank you, Manchi. Well, I hope you've listened today and something might have felt seen or named, or at least gently acknowledged. Because so much of what Asian mothers and many mothers living abroad carrying just doesn't always have a language yet. And that doesn't make it smaller. It makes it worthy of space. If today's conversation resonated with you, or if you know someone who might be craving this kind of connection, I really encourage you to explore The Second Steep. You'll find links to the community, upcoming events, and ways to connect in the show notes. These gatherings are intentional, thoughtful, and rooted in sharing understanding, and sometimes that's exactly what makes something feel safe. Never mind the tasty food Manchi always makes sure to have. And as always, if this episode stirred something in you, just take a moment, let it land, share it with someone who might need it. And thank you for listening with presence. We'll see you next time.